I'm really excited, everyone, because as you know, I've been doing video series every week with people I work with, people who inspire me, people who I'm friends with in the industry. And I'm really proud and excited to introduce my friend Beth Azor. And for anyone who doesn't know Beth, she is a pretty big social media star and also a big real estate tycoon as well. And she's been in the industry for over 35 years, and she's known as the canvassing queen. So I definitely encourage you, if you're not following Beth, to please follow her and her content. I've learned a tremendous amount from her. I've followed Beth. We're going to be going back many years, Beth. I started 25 years ago, and I remember seeing your ads like in shopping center business and like the trade magazines as the canvassing queen. So you have been doing this a very long time. And honestly, it's so much fun, I think, when you're in the industry this long to see how people have evolved and where
For
they've
sure.
gone and where they've taken things. And that's something I definitely want to talk about with you because you started off obviously in corporate America and also you were a broker and own your own company. And then you went into consulting and becoming the canvassing queen and found out about you through Matt Wilson at my office, who worked for Chase Properties for many years. And you coached their leasing team when he was over there in charge of leasing many years ago. And he was the one back in, I think it was 2021, 2022, said, you've got to reach out to Beth Azor. She is having women's summits now. And, I didn't know what types of women's summits. I don't know. I didn't know what your content was. And that's when I picked up the phone. It was right before New York ICSC. And I thought, you know what? I don't know what Beth's like. She seems friendly, but I'm just going to give it a shot and call her. She's either going to call me back or not. And, I'd like to introduce myself and see more of what she's doing because, I have always felt kind of alone in the real estate world as a woman from that standpoint. Like I only ever knew maybe a couple brokers, maybe not even a handful, over the years of being in business, a bunch of leasing agents that have worked with developers and attorneys, and, entering into your group, which I love, which is what I want to talk about more. Joining going to your yearly women's summit, which I was just at for women investors. You change from, coaching leasing, which you still do, but then also pivoting and adding, into trying to get, educating more women on investing in real estate because there's only 1.5% of us doing it. So, which is really scary. So I thought maybe you could expand on that. And why is that?
Well, thanks for having me, my friend.
Welcome.
I remember that little coffee meeting we had in New York at the
Yeah.
ICSC. Well, during COVID, I had read a stat that of all of the commercial real estate investors in the domestic US, 3% were women, and of the 3%, half were inherited or spouses of women who are signing on their husband's guarantees. And I just thought that was terrible. And I just started interviewing my friends who, like you, were brokers, repped Starbucks, found a site for Starbucks, and then handed the deal over to a guy developer and didn't even say, hey, can I throw my fee in the deal as equity? Didn't have the idea to ask. And so,
Yeah.
good point. Why is that? Well, I think that in many women's homes, not my home growing up, but in many women's homes, women are taught to not talk about money. Many, many. And now that I've been on this path for 5 years and I've spoken to hundreds, thousands of women about this topic that I'm very passionate about, I hear the stories that my brothers talked about money with their dads, but we were taught that that's not polite for women, for young girls to talk about money. So I think
Hmm.
it's a societal thing. And I see it even now. You've seen it at the conferences where I say, you all need to know about your net worth. Or I said, this year I said, whose net worth is over X? Whose net worth is over Y? Whose net worth?
Right.
And of all of the women in the room, maybe if there were 250 women in the room, maybe 30 women raised their hands because
You could tell they were scared
they're scared. They
or
don't
they
want
don't
to talk
know.
about money, or they
Yeah.
don't know, which
Yeah.
of course that's a whole other topic. But women, when I started interviewing my friends and saying, well, do you invest at all? Yes, in the stock market. Well, why don't you invest in commercial real estate? You do this on a daily basis. This is like legal insider trading for
Hmm.
us. And they said, well, I don't have $1 million.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, you don't need $1 million to invest in a deal. And then it came down to, well, I don't know any other women doing it. Well, that's true because there's very few of us. But now we've had 5 years of the summit. That means over 1,000 women. I've interviewed between the podcast and the summit over 200 women. It can see even at the conference, women are investing with each other. When I ask who didn't invest last year but has invested since, 8 to 10 hands raised. So we're making progress.
Right. For sure. You're definitely making some progress. And I think that's what's so good about our day and age right now, whether it's women in investing or whatever topic, is that things, because of social media, are so public now that you can find out so much information for free. I mean, obviously, with podcasts, YouTube videos, going to these conferences because they exist, right? There's like, I think, a conference for any topic now where, I was the same way. I was that woman you described. Like, I didn't know, no one mentored me or worked with me to tell me the tricks of the trade, or just roll your fee in, or just ask. Like, just ask. And they could tell you how much, and they could say, oh, if you want 10%, if you only want to put 50 in, or 100, or no, we only take 1 million for this big capital raise. It's just a question. And either you have it or you don't. But I think women are in general are extremely fearful to speak up and to either be ridiculed, yelled at, or made fun of.
Well,
I think
and
that's how
we
I felt when I was younger.
and we have the imposter syndrome. We all have it.
Totally.
Guys
We
don't
all
have
you
it.
do.
We have
We
it.
all do. Yeah.
I'll never forget the day that I was at who knows what airport I was at, but you and I were having a conversation. I was at an airport. You said, are you available? I go, well, I'm at an airport. And we jumped on a call, and you had represented a certain tenant for a long time. And you had known about a deal that this particular tenant, like, you had, again, insider trading. And you're like,
Mhm.
I think this could be a good deal. And I'm like, go do it. Do you remember that call?
Oh, totally. Yep. I'm self-admitted having imposter syndrome. I think, and here we go, think about it. Like, I love the title of Amy Calladrino's new book, From Perfect to Real, because I think that's another problem, is like, we're all perfectionists, and we think if we don't know it perfectly, we're not doing it. And that was me.
Right. Well, that's it. Do we don't want to step our toe in, because what if we don't know? Now, I will tell you, coaching leasing agents for 30
Mhm.
years, that women are better at saying, I'm not sure. They ask questions versus the guys. When I'm
Yeah,
teaching leasing, guys want, they don't want to go to a prospect, like a local prospect, and say, teach me about your business. Women will do that. Guys
that's true.
won't do that. But I think that has to do with serving. Right.
Mhm.
We serve, right? So
Right.
if we're trying to speak to a prospect about coming into one of our shopping centers, we want to learn more, because we're going to serve them. We don't want to do a deal with them if it's not good for them in our plaza. We need to serve our client who we're leasing for, but
Mhm.
we're not doing it for ourselves. When it comes to ourselves, we get shy, and we don't want to look stupid. And also, this is why I
Right.
started the conference, and why the men are mad that I don't let them come, is because when there are men in the room, women won't stand up and go, remind me again. I know this is a silly question, but remind me again what a cap rate is. If there are men in the room, women
They would
won't
never.
stand up. They won't stand up.
Right.
But when at our conference, women ask each other questions. They ask the breakout room people questions, and the questions can be very basic or very thorough, but they're very comfortable to ask those questions.
Right. No, I 100%. And, I'm curious too what you think now that you've done this for 5 years. I mean, I obviously suffered from PTSD with investing because, as when I was very young, like when I first started, I invested with people I worked with that I could trust. And, you know, you could own an investment with someone 24 years and not see a dime or financials or anything. And luckily, that's maybe just 1% of people out there. And obviously, after meeting you, going to the summit, I I was like, this is ridiculous. I'm going to invest with people that I do know, and other people that are credible people that also invest with these people, right? Because you need to interview and know how these people run their companies, and what are they sending, and how does this work? Like, what can you expect if you're an LP, right? A limited, you know, on an investment versus a GP doing your own thing. So I started investing with several people who are fantastic. I've made money off of. They both, they all run their companies extremely similar, very open book. You're getting returns quarterly. They do what they say. They're very open book. They have Zoom meetings. Like they have nothing to hide. They get their K-1s on time. I mean, they run a respectable, responsible investments. So my question to you is like, what do you think is the best advice to give to women to just dip their toe in, to break the ice, to invest?
So a couple of things. So first of all, you need money to invest. So the first thing I say is save your
Mhm.
shekels, because
Mhm.
you know my story. We don't need to go into it, but
Yeah,
I spent all my money. I was a
right.
great leasing agent. I went to Hawaii. I had a Jaguar, spent all my money, and I kept getting opportunities that I kept saying, no, I don't have any money because I spent the money. So the
Right.
first thing is you have to have money to invest. So
Right.
I say that if, for leasing people or whoever's in the business, save 10% of every commission check and put it in an investment account. But
It's
while
great
you're
advice.
doing that, start telling everyone you know, I'm interested in investing, so that you can get on their lists, and then you can get their offering memorandums and then
Mhm.
read them and get
Right.
on the Zoom calls, because you may say, okay, I'm only 27, I only have 10,000 saved, but that doesn't matter, because you can get the offering memorandums, you can start reading them, you can start making notes of, I don't know what this means, I don't know what this means. You can look it up, you can do your own homework. Then you can get on the Zoom calls that we've been on together, where
Right.
they're talking about the asset, and you can hear questions. I ask questions. They don't like the questions I ask, but I know you've been
Right.
on those calls when I ask questions. But then you can hear more experienced people asking
Right.
questions, and then the more, if you are 28, you've
Mhm.
saved 10 grand. By the time you're 30, 32, you've saved 50 grand, and you've been on 10 of these calls. You're ready to make
Right.
an LP investment of 25,000 at that point. Don't give them all 50, but
Right.
do one for 25. And there are absolutely opportunities out there for 25,000, but you have to do your own homework. So because women like to know more, you can
Mhm.
educate yourself. You could also take the CCIM, the first class, the valuation class, the first
Mhm.
5 days. Well, when I went, it
That's
was
a good
5
point.
days.
Mhm.
But taking that class, because that teaches you about cash flowing assets.
Right. That's true. I took all 4 of the classes, but never took the test. But you're right. I mean, I think that's a good point is like CCM, they're like mini master classes in investing. And then the pool of people from there that you meet are amazing as well, that know a lot about investments, even down to even a lot of the teach well, like Bo Barrett, who you had at your event that are even coaching too. So
Right,
there's a lot of
absolutely. And then, of
means.
course, listen to the Women Investor Wednesdays calls. So every
Mhm.
Wednesday night at 7, I'm interviewing a
Right.
woman who has invested, and she talks about her journey. And there's, I think I have 50 of those. That young woman, or that person who hasn't dipped their toe in yet. There could be a
Mhm.
woman that has 500,000 and hasn't dipped their toe, right? It's all on the stock market. Go listen to 50 interviews that I have done with women that have invested, from self-storage, multifamily, limited stay hotels,
Mhm.
warehouses, and then you'll listen to their journeys. And, if you can see it, you can be it. So you can start hearing how they were scared and how they dipped their toe in, and
Right.
I think, and then come to the summit, of course.
Well, of course, because the summit is where it is all at for the whole spectrum of what you just said. Like, so all those guests that you've had, most of them have been your summit. And what's nice and cool is like a lot of them come back. But then what I find fascinating is every year you surprise me and you'll have a woman on who's doing investments that you never even thought of, right? That are very different, that a little outside the norm, whether it's
Student housing.
student housing. What's the gal's name with the podcast? Was it Nicole?
Yes.
This is
Oh,
this is getting
Pendergrass.
edited.
Pendergrass.
Yes. I mean, she was amazing talking about what she was doing up in the East Coast outside of Boston.
Amazing. I mean, some of these women, yeah, I meet them and I go, you need to come to my summit. You got to be on that stage, because and it's going to be harder. Well, I hope it's not harder and harder to find more, because there's more and more women doing it. Right.
Right.
So, but it's going to be harder and harder to narrow it down on the 8 to 10 that we have at the summit.
That's true. And what I think was also a good point with if anybody with one of the things I tell any agent here who starts with me is they have to get your 2 books that you've written and also listen to
Thank
your
you.
podcasts because there's a wealth of information and it's short and it's easy. You don't have to sit there an hour to listen. You could break it up each week and learn a lot. And what I like now that you're doing with women investing, which by the way, it's great for women, it's great for men too. I mean, you learn a lot about investments and the different types of investments and how all these women are structuring these investments and where. And what I like is that a lot of them, not a lot of them, but I mean, a lot of them do have on their websites, even like a playbook, just like how you wrote the leasing playbook. Like they have the playbook, like the gals with Reef, like the mom and the daughter. How do you go buy a bunch buy apartments? Like where do you start? They actually have a podcast, just like Aaron did last year. I mean, who is also a big apartment investor, and you learn a lot. And what's nice is a lot of these people who do come, some might be are in the smaller spectrum, some are in the really big multi-million dollar spectrum. They've been around a long time. But what's nice is once you meet them and then you go to their websites, you can also get on their email lists for when they're raising capital. So if you want to dip your toe into being an LP, you could dip your toe in looking at their offerings, being on their Zoom calls. Not just because you're in the calls doesn't mean, and you're on their list doesn't mean you have to invest with
Yeah,
them.
right.
And
And
you don't
then
even have to
also,
feel bad because sometimes they have to close it off early.
right. And with the women in our group, they want women to come and listen to their pitches and ask questions because they're trying to serve also. Like Shannon, I don't know if you
Right.
were on, she said, I
Yeah,
know that
I
many
watched
of
her.
you, yeah, many of you are not interested in investing in this, but come on the call and don't be afraid to ask any questions. The other thing is about dipping your toe in is if they are in retail leasing and they
Mhm.
are tenant reps, ask the developer if you can put either your whole fee or half of your fee in the deal.
That's a very good point because definitely the gals that are in the tenant rep world have way bigger advantage of getting in as LPs than I think like an average person because they're specking out the dirt and bringing the tenant to the developers.
Right. And I know that hundreds of women are doing deals and never asking. So I'm on a big push to make that. They should at least ask. Now, the developer can say, no, thanks. I've got all my
Mhm.
equity. But one out of every 5, 7, or 10 might say, yeah, you can put I mean, I did that. I was leasing a ground up shopping center and the developer, we were going to put in some money, I think like 200 grand between me and my partner. And then
Mhm.
like 30 days before closing, they lost a huge partner, like 3 or 400,000. And, my partner put in another 2 or 3 and I put in another 100. So, and that was a ground up leasing deal.
And that's a good point too, because I think a lot of people, you got to ask you're never going to get in life, right? And I think too, like, granted, you can't go call a REIT. I mean, that's why you're buying their stock if you want to buy it. But all these people who are private, even if they're family owned, some people think, oh, they're family owned, like they're not going to offer this. But shockingly, they will. A lot of times they'll say, sure. And sometimes some of these families, when they're starting to get even bigger, bigger, and bigger, they start raising funds. And if you're already in with them, and usually those funds will fill up fast because especially if they have a good reputation, people want to be with them. And if you're like their right hand leasing person, bringing them deals, you'll definitely be in if you want to invest. And it's just something
Absolutely.
like, again, you got to ask.
That's happening with us right now. There's a group in Philadelphia that has never raised capital.
Hmm.
They've done multiple deals, 30, 40, 50 deals. And they've
Yeah.
just decided now to start scaling and raising money. And they brought their deal to the Pipeline Women's Investment Group.
Hmm.
And there's a group of us, I think 8, that are creating our own LLC and going in as an LP of like a share of that deal. And we're doing it not because, it's not that big of a deal per se, but it's
Okay.
going to get us started. And now we're in with that group for the next deal that they do that we might love even more. But
Right.
we're already an LP of theirs.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. Again, if you didn't ask, you wouldn't have it. And this could be a client you dealt with for 20 years, but you don't know they might run a raise capital one day, right? Any advice for women who want to be GPs? Just go
So
bigger and start there.
yeah, so I LP'd 7 times and then I said, "Oh, I can be a GP. It's so much harder." I mean, I Oh my gosh, it's so much harder. I didn't have a hard time raising the capital. That was easy for me, but
Okay.
doing the deal, like getting a mortgage, I had never done that before. I paid someone to do my underwriting package.
Hmm.
Leasing, no problem. I'm the ex like, I knew I could lease it, and this
Right.
is what I tell before I went on this rant with women, because I didn't know the stat, I was on this rant with leasing people.
Okay.
Leasing is in my blood.
Right.
Leasing people are my jam, right? And I would find out that leasing people were not investors, and men and women, and I went, "Without you, there's no deal." Like, so
Right.
without you filling the project, there isn't
Hmm.
a deal. So get in the freaking game. So I knew going to being a GP, I had a huge deal. I was buying a shopping center. I had Kimco and BlackRock vying for me to be my equity partner. BlackRock and Kimco. Why did that happen? Because of my leasing talent. It had nothing to do with me knowing how to be a GP.
Or how to underwrite, or yeah,
How to
right.
I knew how to underwrite because I don't even know how to do Excel, but
Right.
I know markets and I know
Hmm.
demand and I know the tenants.
Hmm.
So I can pay someone to do the Argus or the Excel or whatever, which is what I've done. So I think that if you're in leasing, being a GP is a lot easier because you know the market, you know the tenants. So now all you have to do is fill in your education like I did. Because
Hmm.
I didn't know how to do a mortgage, I hired a mortgage broker. Because I didn't know how to analyze for Kimco and BlackRock, like they wanted
Right.
analysis. I don't know. So I hired for that. Now I've built shopping centers. What do? I hire a project manager because I don't know anything about building, but I
Right.
know the most important piece, leasing. It's without it, it doesn't matter about analytics. It doesn't matter about underwriting. It doesn't matter about mortgages, and it doesn't matter about building.
It doesn't. And that's like the big thing I want to emphasize to women, especially us who are brokers out there who have the tenants, especially the tenant rep brokers, because there's no deal without you and your tenant. There's no developer, there's no work for the developers, right? Zero. So you're actually the most important asset. And I think the thing is, what a lot of people don't think about, or they might be too cheap to think about, is the fact, and it's really not as expensive as you think, is that you can outsource. You can outsource your underwriting, you outsource your legal, you can outsource your builder, you outsource the mortgage broker. Yeah, I mean, there's so many great mortgage brokers that you can find from people who know people, and go to them.
Leasing is the hardest thing to hire for
Artist.
and
And
find.
another thing too, I was thinking about as a point to get into being an LP, when you do ask a developer, I think people would be shocked because it's happened to me where I have asked and they will flat out say, I'll give you the first 10% free and you could put in the other 10%. You know? But you'll never but the point is you wouldn't even know if you didn't ask. And then you get offered free money on top of putting in your own money. Or usually they'll let you go. I was up to 19%, not 20, because I didn't want to be on the mortgage. I was too scared to do that,
Right. Yeah.
you know. But
Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
yeah, leasing. So anyone that's leasing and is not asking to get in the deal, shame on you. So listen and act. And if you want to role play how to do it, call me or call Tori.
Right, exactly. Well, I think we're going to end on that note, unless there's anything else that you think is really good points for the ladies out there that are looking to
Yeah.
invest should know.
And the men too. The men should
And
be
then,
investing too. But the men are there's a lot more men doing it than women. So just don't fear is crippling. Don't let
yeah.
fear cripple you for the wealth and health of your future and your family. And there's so many women out there, Tori, me, just look around, start asking around who's investing and just find a buddy and ask them questions and watch the podcasts. They're all free.
Yeah, for sure. And we should probably throw out Natasha Falcone too. She's amazing
Yeah.
as well.
Call Natasha. She loves to help. I've invested with her 4 of her multifamily deals.
Yeah, she's very helpful. And look, there are a lot of guys out there that are extremely helpful that you could call too, that I've called, that I've invested with, and or have helped me. So just find
Well,
your
thank you for having
trustworthy
me on
partner.
your
Yeah,
first, like, or
yeah.
your startup of your cool
My video series.
your video series. Love it.
All right. Thank you so much, Beth. Have a great week.
Love you.
Love you too.